congratulations on the birth of your new child.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been pretty cool starting over with an 8-month-old, but it's definitely been interesting.
Well, you and I are the same age, Donnie. Now I have a 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old, and you realize how old you are when that happens.
No doubt. That's what I they say keep you young. I say it keeps you working.
Absolutely. All right. So, what do you think of your team as you bring them into this series against the Mets?
We feel good about ourselves. I got a good group of guys. We've had a club that's been easy to manage this year as far as getting ready to play. We got a good veteran group that we've been able to trust and get our guys ready. We're starting to get a mix of young guys. We've had a few young guys in our bullpen with a good mix out there. And we got some good young guys on the horizon, so it's a good time to be with the Dodgers right now.
Donnie, you've done this for a long time now. I mean, you were groomed as a coach for a while, and now you've managed for quite a few years too. What is the thing that's most different, if anything, about you as a manager today compared to you as a manager your very first year?
Oh, definitely a lot more comfortable. With everything. Probably the biggest area is your pitching. That's the area I think I had to learn the most is kind of the way those guys think and using your bullpen, making sure those guys know what you're expecting of them, kind of communicating with those guys on a daily basis in the bullpen. It's probably been the area that takes the most time, or has taken the most time for me. But, when you first come in, you think you're ready and you know baseball, but managing is something that you have to continue to learn, and you go through more and more situations, and I feel like you just kind of get better all the time.
One thing I was wondering about, Donnie, you were hired by Ned Colletti, and then last year the Dodgers brought in a front office that's full of analytic guys that really adhere to the computer and the numbers and things like that. Do you have a good fit with those guys? Are you getting along with those guys? And do you believe in that side of baseball?
It's been a great fit. I think if you're a person that doesn't believe in analytics, you're just like sticking your head in the sand and not believing in that. It's just more information, the way I look at it. Definitely Andrew and Farhan and those guys, they make you think. They talk about a lot of different things. But what I love about those guys is that they're also concerned about the locker room, the way guys mix together, guys that are good teammates. So it's been a great mix, actually, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
Donnie, was it hard at all for you to embrace analytics? Because that's always so fascinating to me, because you're right. If you don't embrace it to some degree, right, then you're going to end up lost with the way the game is moving. But how long did it take for you to get to a place where you were like, you know what, I could see this as information instead of the enemy?
It's been right away, to be honest with you. When I was doing the bench job in New York with Joe, it was coming then. I mean, you had to go through the charts and where we're going to play guys and things like that. Not near as many numbers or as many different names for numbers, right? But again, I looked at it as just information. I've always liked stats. I feel like they tell you a story. And to me, that's what analytics is all about. It's a better rounded view of a player. I get to see more of a 360 view, not just one, maybe the front side. I'm getting to see all angles on a guy. And I think it just helps you to make better decisions.
Donnie, we were seeing reports that Zack Greinke has left the team to be with his wife for the birth of their first child. Is he not going to pitch this weekend?
We feel like he'll be back this weekend.
Okay.
He'll be back. It seems like Friday night's going to be a tough one for him to get back for, but we feel like he'll pitch at some point this weekend.
Donnie, what has been, I guess, what stood out most to you as he's gone through this stretch, not giving up a run in 40-plus innings now?
As much as anything, he got off to a great start this year. This is a lot of the same stuff. Obviously not the number of innings without giving up a run. But this is not a whole lot different than we've been watching the last couple of years. I know people are going, oh, Zack. But he got off to a great start this year. The last couple of years, I felt like he kind of has moved into the season. As the season got on, he got better and better. This year he got off to a great start, and it's kind of been just rolling ever since. And, he just kind of keeps going. And, when he needs to make a pitch, he's been able to make it. He's been fun to watch, but he's been fun to watch the last couple of years also.
Now, across the field from you, the New York Mets are a team that's been ravaged by injuries, and one of the biggest ones has been David Wright, who's out with spinal stenosis. That's not what you had, Donnie, but a back injury certainly made your career turn in a way that you didn't think it was going to turn. What are the chances that New Yorkers get to see David Wright the way he was before this injury?
I'm not sure of exactly what his injury is. I had to talk with him out in L.A. actually, and I think it's just going to be a matter of him figuring out what he can do and what he can't do on not necessarily on the field, but his work process. And that was the biggest problem that I had. I felt like I was trying to get a routine that I could play with, that I could stay strong, but also feel like I was sharp. And I know David's a worker and a guy that you get comfort in your mind from working really hard. You feel like you're prepared. He's going to have to get to the point where he can feel prepared without having to take extra swings and extra ground balls. And I think he'll get there with technology today and all the things we know about the back and how much stronger guys can get. I think he'll get back. It just may take him a little bit of time to figure out his routine, but I think he'll be a guy that gets back, and you'll see good things from him again.
Donnie, you still hit well in the end of your career, but was there ever a time after the injury, dealing with that for as long as you did, where you thought, I'm going to have to embrace just being a different player, a less productive player than I was?
I don't think you ever embrace that. I think sometimes that's realistic of who you are at that moment. But I think you always continue to work and try to figure it out to get back to, being, in a sense, the player that you were in the past or closer to that. I think you always have to look at things in a realistic way that, hey, I'm not driving the ball the way I used to, but how do I make changes to be a productive player? And then all of a sudden, sometimes, like for me at the very end, all of a sudden I found my power again. And it was just a matter of kind of everything kind of falling back into place, me doing some things a little different. Probably the last month of the season there in 95, I was like, whoa, here we go again. And I think David would get to that. If he stays with it and can get himself strong and healthy, he'll get everything back.
So Don Mattingly, the manager of the Dodgers, are in town to play the Mets first of 4 games tonight at Citi Field. What about Joc Pederson? What do you see with this kid? He's got enormous power, strikes out a lot, but it seems like in baseball right now, the strikeout's not the devil it used to be.
It's not the devil it used to be, but there's a lot more talk about guys that can put the ball in play, that's for sure. But Joc has been great for us. He's been a guy that has absolutely played a great center field for us. He's brought a lot of energy to our club. He's a gamer-type player. He's more of an old-school kid that, the veterans like to get on him, and he takes it well and kind of comes back. I think we see Joc now as a guy that's going to end up making more and more contact over time. I think he'll cut his strikeouts down by 20-25% next year, and I think we'll see that grow where he gets to be more of a 120 to 130 guy. This year he's probably going to be 200, but I do see him kind of cutting that down over time as he learns his swing, and he's got unbelievable power. The ball jumps off this kid's bat like you can't believe. It's more like a strawberry, those type of guys that when they hit it, it stays hit.
Don, we have always in these parts, thought Yankees-Red Sox, that's the biggest rivalry, that's the most intense rivalry. But Dodgers-Giants actually, you talk to some people, they'll talk about it having more vitriol and more animosity than Yankees-Red Sox. What's been your experience with that rivalry compared to the one you got to experience as a player here and as a coach?
It's definitely a pretty good rivalry, and they've had great clubs since I've been out in the L.A. area. I don't know if it's quite as heated as the Boston-New York thing, and I think that's more because L.A. is just a little bit more laid back. San Francisco's got a little more edge. I don't know if it's the weather or what, but they got a little more edge out there. But L.A. fans are definitely passionate about our club, and they don't like the Giants, that's for sure. But it still doesn't have that same intensity as far as the anger that you get here on the East Coast.
A couple of quick questions before we let you go. We know you're busy. Jimmy Rollins has not had a good season. What's the problem?
Jimmy Rollins hasn't been as bad as it looks. I know it looks it's 205 or something like that, but he's driven over 30 runs for us. He's played a great shortstop for us, and he's been a great leader for us. The things that you don't see on paper, Jimmy's been all of that. And him and Howie Kendrick up the middle along with Joc Pederson, I think we're one of the top defensive clubs in the National League now, and he's been a big part of that. So Jimmy has gotten a lot of big hits. Average-wise, he hasn't done things that we thought he would do, but we still think Jimmy's going to, kind of be there when that light shines the brightest.
When you land in New York, do you still get a warm feeling? Do you still feel that you belong here, or are you now all Hollywood?
I'm definitely not Hollywood, but I like the beach. I'll tell you that. But you know, New York's kind of home for me in a sense, as a second home. You play as many years as I played in New York, and treated as well as I was treated by the fans in New York. So I always love coming back. I always end up here every winter. It seems like coming to the plays and the shows. So I always love coming back to New York. But I can't say I'm complaining too much about the beach life.
You know, Don,
you know what? Jones Beach is a nice beach too, Donnie. There's a lot of beaches here. Now, I'm wondering, with you in first place and the Yankees in first place, have you even imagined or dreamed what it would be like, Don Mattingly against the Yankees in the World Series? I mean, would your head explode?
Oh, I'd love it. That would be so good. That would be one of the greatest things that could happen. So let's make that happen this year.
Probably. I mean, that's the one road city in the World Series where you'd get a rousing ovation when you were introduced at the first home game there. That's a road game for you.
You know Yankee fans better than that. When it gets to that,
no chance. If you run out there, they will cheer you. There's no way Don Mattingly gets booed at Yankee Stadium.
I agree with Ryan. One final thing. Are you surprised?
But when you go back out for ball, you arguing on the field somewhere, you know it's not going to be the
then
same.
you're done. You're done. But the first time you're going to get an ovation. And finally, are you surprised that A-Rod's having the season that he's having?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, having a couple of years off, almost 2 years, right, with the injury and then the suspension, that's a lot of time off. And as you get older, it's tougher to do that. He's been amazing, and watching him, and really happy for him to kind of bounce back. Looks like he's doing good with his teammates in the city, and I always liked Alex from the standpoint he was really a worker and a guy that really loved playing the game. And I know there's a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of water, in between there. But, from a coaching standpoint, he's a guy that you kind of love seeing do well, because I always know that how much he loves playing and how hard he worked.